Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be chatting a little about being an expat, again, no surprises, but today I thought I'd touch a little bit more on some of the truths behind it. Now don't get me wrong, I chose to live abroad. I love living abroad. Being an expat means that you move abroad probably because you choose to. It could be for a job, but it's not something like your country's in conflict or you're looking to earn a better quality of life in terms of just earning enough money to live above the poverty line or something like that. I don't have to move abroad just to try to make a better life for myself. I moved abroad to make a better life for myself for different reasons than poverty or war or yeah, that's getting a little deep. But my point is, these are very first world problems. However, it doesn't mean that I don't feel them, and I think they're things that you should know before you move abroad if it's something that you're considering. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of the truths of being an expat, things that I didn't necessarily expect or took me by surprise, or realities that I'm coming to terms with now. We're battling with some interesting sun situations and a helicopter that keeps circling near where I live, but apart from that, hope you enjoy the video. But before we go any further, a big thank you to our sponsor for this video, sendmybag.com. If you don't know, Send My Bag is basically a service where they will take your baggage from door to door across countries. Now this is great if you're moving abroad or if you're a student going abroad to study, because it basically takes the stress out of lugging your baggage across public transport and having to pay a ton of money on the aeroplane. It's a service I really have used and loved for years. Sendmybag.com, sendmybag.com, sendmybag.com. And I think that you're gonna love it too. So if you want to find out how Send My Bag can help you, click on the link in the description. So the first thing I don't think a lot of my friends who haven't lived abroad appreciate is that you just have to deal with so much bureaucracy. A lot of your life, particularly in the early months, maybe even years of living in a new country, is going to be taken up with filling out paperwork, appointments at the commune, and just sorting out all those things. And if you're in a country where they speak a different language, you're going to go through all of that in a different language. Now that in itself isn't terrible, but it's definitely something that puts a lot of stress on you in the first few weeks and months, and yeah, let's just say a few tears have been shed over it in the past. So I just got off the phone and they just gave me a completely different set of information than what they gave me over email. Oh, it's hard sometimes. It's the first thing that everyone thinks about before they decide to move abroad is you are going to be away from your friends and family. It doesn't take a genius to understand why that's difficult, but I'm someone who has always thought of myself as quite independent. I had moved abroad as a child and dealt with it okay, but something I'm only just coming to terms with now. And it's going to sound silly, it's very simple, but the reality of it is setting in that when I'm away from the UK, my friends from school, my friends from university, their lives keep going. And even if I decided to move back home tomorrow, which I don't think I will, I've missed out on years because geographically, financially, I just couldn't be there for a lot of the things that they've experienced together since I left. I should know I'm very bad at keeping in I'm very bad at keeping in contact with people. Messages kind of stress me out and I'm naturally quite introverted, so it takes a bit longer for me to be like, oh, I should check in with so-and-so than I think for most people. But even so, I think even if you're very extroverted, you only have so much time in a day. You have to concentrate on making friends in a new place for reasons I'll explain later. And so you do have to kind of pick who you're going to stay in touch with, and that can be difficult. Now, obviously, there are good points to moving abroad too, otherwise I wouldn't have done it, and this is one of them. You're going to see the world in a different way, and it sounds dramatic, and it's a bit cliche, but it's very true. If you're moving to a place where they speak a different language, bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Becoming fluent or having some level of fluency in a different language, you really do start to understand a different way of seeing the world. Different languages have different ways of expressing themselves, different vocabulary, and you can really see how that's rooted in the culture that you're living in, which is just fascinating. Like, how weird is it that that's actually a real thing? It still kind of blows my mind, and it's one of the reasons that I'll never regret having moved abroad. But even if you're moving to a place that speaks the same language, I think you're going to experience this too. That kind of leads on to my next point, which is, I think once you've lived abroad, you're never again going to have exactly the same points of reference as someone else. You're never going to be able to relate to another person quite in the same way as you could before you moved abroad. Before you moved abroad, you might completely understand the cultural references and the way that you communicate with people from your own country. But when you move abroad, you see that there's a whole other frame of reference that exists, and you're going to pick up some points from that. So you're going to be a little mix of the two, and even if it's just two places you've lived in, I think that changes you in a way that certainly to you is perceptible, and to an extent is going to be perceptible to other people too. What it really comes down to is you're going to have a unique set of experiences that shape the way that you talk and, again, the way you see the world, and that can make things interesting at times. So reverse culture shock is definitely a thing. Like I was just saying, you're going to see the world in a slightly different way now, whether you recognise it or not at first. And going back to your home country, whether it's returning after a few months or years away to live, or if you're just coming back to visit family, I think you're going to pick up on just how much in your home country perhaps you took for granted and now you're questioning or had forgotten, like, oh, people do things like that here? Why do they do it like that and not like that? That's so weird. And you might even pick up on things about your home culture that you don't like that you didn't realise before. Or equally things that are much more efficient and you'd forgotten about and you wish you could take that back to your new home country. But on the other end of the spectrum, you know, that can lead to feeling like you're never quite at home in one place or the other, which can be something that's difficult to come to terms with. One thing you should definitely be prepared for is when you move to a new country, be prepared to feel stupid, or even be treated like you're stupid at times. Now, this counts whether you're going to a country that speaks the same language or not, although if it's the country that speaks a different language, and you don't speak it fluently or to native proficiency, then at times people are probably going to treat you like you're not as intelligent because you can't express yourself at the same level as your brain is functioning in. I definitely experienced this when I moved to France, and to an extent when I moved to Italy as well. And I just remember saying countless times, like, I swear I sound a lot more intelligent in English. But aside from language, this also comes down to just understanding social cues and what you should do in certain social situations, because it's not the same in different countries and it's not the same from culture to culture. So that's definitely another place where you can miss things and come across as just being a little bit silly when actually it's just a cultural difference.
My landlord's annoyed with me because I'm asking for a contract after living here for 3 months, which was meant to be ready at the beginning of October, and I'm not being patient enough.
But remember, everyone you're interacting in the new place you're living won't necessarily have been an expat in the past or understand that this is a thing that you're going through and things are different in your country. You are the foreigner in this situation, which is why it can feel a little uncomfortable at times. So just get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Social cues aren't the same from country to country, but even simple things like how the post office works and which shops to buy certain products in is going to be different. I remember when I moved to Italy, I couldn't work out where to buy matches. I couldn't find them in the supermarket, which is where I would have gone to in the UK. And I was like wandering around the city centre, like, where do I buy matches? And I asked someone and they were like, tabaccaio. Now, tabaccaio is like the tobacco shop, which is something that doesn't really exist in England anymore. It's really obvious. They looked at me like I was stupid, but it's just something that wouldn't have occurred to me before. A little bit of a more serious one again. When you move abroad, you're not going to escape any problems you have. If you're really deeply unhappy where you are, the chances of that being related just to the geographical place are very small. There's probably something deeper going on there. And by moving abroad, you're not going to escape that, and I promise you it's going to follow you there. I experienced this to some extent when I moved abroad for the first time as an adult, and the second time. And I met a lot of people who I think have experienced this too. Moving abroad can seem like a great way to escape to a new place and have a fresh start, but the truth is that, you know, you're the problem in a lot of your problems, and that's okay. We're human, we're flawed, but just don't expect it to be a fix-all solution. You've probably got some deeper work to do. If you still want to move abroad, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but just be prepared for that. And when you're abroad, it can be more difficult to process some of those problems because you're going to be away from your support network. You're not going to have friends and family who you have that same strong bond with and will be there for you, even when you're just a terrible person to spend time with and really a bit of a downer. That was a little bit too dark maybe. Let's pick it up again. So the last thing I'm going to say is certainly if you've done things the way I have, where it was like, I want to live in Italy, let's go and figure it out once we're there. Working for myself, basically I will never look at physical belongings in the same way again. Now this started as an Erasmus student when I lived in different countries, had my first experience with that, and it's only got stronger as I've moved to Italy and Belgium as a real grown-up. Basically, I'm always thinking about if I can fit everything I need to into a reasonable number of bags to move abroad. And I swear, I'm not mentioning this because of the fact that Send My Bag is sponsoring this video. You can go and check my old videos. I was purging my things before I moved abroad, and I'm always so careful not to just buy things for the sake of it and really ask if it's gonna bring value to my life. And I'm a bit of a minimalist in that sense, because I do see myself moving abroad again, maybe multiple times, and I'm not yet at a point where I can just throw money at expensive containers and shipping things from country to country. I think that you really value the material things in a different way if you've experienced moving abroad. I think that's more than enough points for today. Don't get me wrong, there are loads more, and I would really like to hear some of yours. If you've moved abroad, or even if you're in the process of considering moving abroad, what are some truths that you've kind of come to terms with? Thanks again to Send My Bag for sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching. So, have a great day. Best of luck if you're in the process of moving abroad. Breathe, don't stress too much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!